Hello everyone, my name is Jen and welcome to the Book Refuge. All right, hello my friends and welcome to a kind of chatty video slash a kind of rapid review video this is going to be today. So this is the third or fourth video I've made like this over the years. Sorry, my necklace is kind of shiny today. It has been over 2 years since I've made one of these updates though, and I was thinking about it while I was going through my book recommendations form, and I was like, oh, I need to film an update on this. I will admit it's been less frequent that I've been using the book recommendation form just because my TBRs, as you know, are pretty heavy. But I don't want you guys to think that I don't ever use it, because I definitely do. I still use this book recommendation form a lot of the times when I do readathons, when I pick books that I read for my book club with Crystal, when I'm looking for ideas for really specific prompts for things, or when I'm just stumped on, to find things. I do think though that this form has gotten pretty crazy, so I am thinking about maybe closing off this form and possibly starting a new one at some point. I don't know. But first off, I'll start by telling you what I'm talking about in case you don't know. But you've maybe heard me mention through the years that I have a book recommendation form. I also have a video suggestion form, and these forms always live in my description box where you can actually suggest a book for me. And if you've ever suggested a book for me in my comments, you might have had me comment back, please put this in the form. That's because I take all book suggestions through this book recommendation form, just so I don't lose them, because I do like to respond to as many comments as I can, particularly, good faith comments where people are wanting to chat with me about my opinions on things, and not just troll comments or things like that. But it can be overwhelming to get book suggestions through my comments, and I often can lose them in the comments. So many years ago now, in fact, we're going on 6 years ago now, I started this, well, no, it was 5 years ago because it was early 2021. I started a book recommendation form, and it's a Google form that has been open all that time. I've had over 1,000 recommendations come in through this form, and it's the same form that's been open. I just prune it and clean it out as I read the books as I do that. And I've made videos about this in the past, and I keep track of which books I've read. And if you've put your name in, because you can give these recommendations anonymously, or you can put your name in if you want a shout out when I read the book or when I talk about it. And I have found some wonderful books through there. I found some of my favorite books by reading in there. And I just absolutely have loved it through the years. When I first started it, in fact, I actually did more regularly use it. As I said, my channel was much smaller. I had a much smaller TBR. So I even did reading vlogs where I would read books directly from here. I haven't had the luxury of being able to do that in recent years, given my workload. But again, I still use it. So please continue to put recommendations in there. I have had authors who come to my channel who put their recommendations in there. You're more than welcome to do that. But sometimes it does get a little crazy. I have people who spam me through the form. You don't need to continue to put a book in the form. If you put it in there once, it's in there forever, and I delete duplicates. So putting a book in there 50 times doesn't help. In fact, it can just make me mad, and I delete all of them. So you don't have to do that. If it's in there, it's in there. In fact, some of the very first recommendations ever are in there. So anyway, but it's just this form where I ask the name of the book, the name of the author, the tropes. And then if you want to, you can put a little bit about why you liked the book in there. You don't need to put the blurb of the book. I literally put that in the form. Please do not put the blurb, and I'll have people put the blurb. People don't read instructions, but that's okay. I've accepted it. It's okay. People really want you to try the book, and so they do whatever they can to get you to try the book. So anyway, this isn't to complain about it. It's been a really great thing to have. But anyway, the point of this video is that as I read the books that get recommended in there, I keep track of it. And in the spreadsheet on my end, I have an additional page that I added where I keep track of when I read one of the suggestions. I add it to the next sheet and I put the book as well as who suggested it and then what my rating is. And when I make an update video like this, I will keep track so that I can make an update video and do one of these where I tell you what the ratings were for these. And you know, just so I can kind of keep track of who gave me this recommendation and how much I like the book. And so today what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through this. And I think some of you will be surprised how many of some of the favorite books of this channel came from my book recommendation form. Some of the books, in fact, or some of these authors, in fact, I even have become like ARC reviewers for these authors because someone suggested a book through here. They've become favorite authors of mine because of the recommendations through here. So this form is still very pertinent in my life. It just is that people have forgotten about it or they think I don't check it. And like, that's just not true. It's just not as pertinent maybe as it was when I started, but definitely is. A couple other things we're going to do is that I also get recommendations in here for books that I've read a long time ago and just don't get talked about on my channel anymore. So particularly there's a few like really old books that, you know, people are wanting to draw my attention to because maybe they're like, oh, this is a classic, you should read this, not knowing that I've already read it. And so I also have a few of those that I want to read through quickly to just say like, yeah, I've already read these, love these ones. And I'll do that after I get through this list. And then there's also a couple on here that are by authors that I just don't read. They're just like no read authors for me. So I just want to say quickly like why I won't read those authors. Not like a why as in like, oh, I hate them or they're a canceled author. Like I'm not going to say that. I'll just say like, no, I'm not going to read that one. So that is what we're going to do. There's going to be about, I think I have about 32 books to go through that I'm just going to do, like I said, kind of a rapid thing. Some of these books, like I said, some of these books I've talked about a ton on the channel, so I don't need to do a review from. You're going to be like, oh, that's where that book came from because yeah, I read it for this. We're going back because again, the last time I did one of these updates, I had just checked, was in September of 2023. So it was 2.2 years ago that I made an update for this, and I have 34 books to go through that were ones I read off of this. And so there's a few even that were favorites of the year to talk about. So I'll just go through them briefly. And then some that were worst of the year. So I will call out the people if they gave their name. And if they didn't give their name, I'll just say it was an anonymous recommendation. But some of the books, I don't even remember what they were about anymore, so I won't, worry about it. But anyway, that's what this is going to be, it's just basically a fun little recap of the last 34 books I read that were off of the book recommendation form. As always, the book recommendation form is still listed down below, so you'll be able to continue to make recommendations if you want to. Again, if you have ever through the years recommended a book, it is still in there. The form actively, because I just pruned it last night, right? I pruned out all of the duplicates. I pruned out all of the ones that I've already read and, completed. So all of those are taken out. So currently the total in there is 600. Oh shoot, that light died. Is like 675, I think is what I'm at. Unread books that are in there. So it is quite a hefty list, but that doesn't mean that I don't still actively go through it. And like I said, it's very important to put like the tropes and like keywords in, because what I often use it for is that I do Control F and I will search for certain things I'm looking for. You know, if I'm looking for a dystopian, if I'm looking for an age gap, if I'm looking for a certain kink, that is often what I've used the book recommendation for before. When I'm looking for, at one point I was looking for lactation kink. I was looking for cock warming, like those random things. When I would make videos that were more kink specific, my book recommendation form was very helpful because people would put those kinks in for me and I could find things that way. I've found a lot of fan fiction through the years for my form. I love when people recommend fan fictions in there, so feel free to do that too. So let's get into this list. So like I said, some of these will probably surprise you. So going all the way back, the very, not first one on the, but the very first one in this round was Gravity by Talbauer. Lots of Talbauer gets put on this list, which was great. That is how I first ever read Talbauer. You and Me was first put on this list. That was the very first Talbauer I read. So this Talbauer was one of his hockey ones. This is the one that a lot of people are recommending right now for lovers of heated rivalry. I stand by that. You absolutely should, because this one is Bryson Hunter. It's a team captain of the Montreal Étoiles. I can't say it. And then there's even an NHL All-Star Weekend, and there is Hunter Lacey, who is a league superstar as well, and they go into All-Star Weekend, and they have a fun little weekend together, and their feelings come out. So yes, if you are a lover of heated rivalry and you haven't read Gravity, you're wasting your time. You definitely need to hop on this one. So this one was recommended anonymously. I gave it 4.5 stars. Love it. And we might as well do the other Talbauer that was also in here. Because like I said, basically all the Talbauers got put on this list, and even if I'm planning to already read it, if I find it in my book rec form, I give credit to the person as well. Though this one was also anonymously. The Jock was also put in here. This one is a football star and not a player. This one is Justin and Wes. And these two, I think this is the one. Is this the one where they meet? I think, yeah, this is the one where they meet in Paris. They spend a week in Paris together for like a college trip or whatever, and they fall in love there, and then when they come back, they have a secret relationship. This one is pretty intense. I actually read The Quarterback first, which is about one of the guy's teammates and the other guy's dad fall in love. So I read that one first, but The Jock was in my book rec form, and I gave this one 5 stars. This one is probably the angstiest Talbauer that I'd read, because usually his are very like romantic and things work out pretty easily. The Jock was definitely angstier for me, but also gave it 5 stars. Loved. Okay, there was A Soul to Keep by Opal Rain. This one was recommended to me by Ricky Reeds. This series, I got lost in a hole when I read this one for sure. This was the first in the Dustwalker Bride series, and at the time, I think there was 4 books out when I read it, and I binged this series hard, and these are chunky books. I think this is like the shortest one, and I gave this one 5 stars. So thank you, Ricky, for recommending this one. I did end up falling off because they just ended up getting so long and so like heartbreaking, but I want to get back into the series at some point. But they just after I read the one, which just like it tore my guts out. The Dustwalker one had like an amnesia plotline in it that just tore my guts out so bad. But yeah, this one was 5 stars. A lot of them in the series were 5 stars. Really enjoyed this one a lot. Okay, the Duke Who Knew Too Much. This one by Grace Calloway. This one was recommended by Lemony Time, and I enjoyed this one as well. I read this one, I think, for a readathon. That is honestly what I do with a lot of the historicals in here. I won't lie. A lot of times I'm reading the historicals for readathons or for book club. So love getting historical recs in here. And I love getting historical recs, and then I will even pull up this book rec form when I am at a used bookstore and look for the recommendations. Now, this one was book 1 in the Hearts of Iniquity. Like I said, I'm not doing full recaps of these ones, but this was the first one in a series that involves like spies and things like that. And Grace Calloway writes a lot of kind of like suspenseful-ish ones. Suspenseful-ish. That is a weird way to describe that, Jen. But I must have really enjoyed this one. I gave this a 4.5 when I read it. So there was that. Next, I had read Dark Fae by Quinn Blackbird. And I gave this one 2 stars. I remember not liking that one at all. So we'll just keep going. Like I said, I'm not diving deep in the ones I don't remember. Then there was Ignite by Nora Phoenix. And I don't remember that one well at all either. I gave that one a 3-star. That was from Anonymous as well. Then there was Choosing Theo, and I do actually have special editions of these. This is book 1 in the Clocanian series, and this series was gifted to me by one of my dear patrons and friends. Love these like retro like comic book covers of these. I love this series so much, and this was a series I had been wanting to read for sure, and I love the audiobooks. In fact, I have the newest one on audio, and I've been waiting and waiting for the audio, and then I just haven't been in the mood for an alien romance. And the other part is, I know I'm such a snob, but it's a third person, and right now I'm just really struggling to dive into it, but I do have the newest one in this series. But I gave this one a 4 when I read it. And this was recommended by Erica. I just had the first name. So thank you for this rec, Erica. Love the Clocanian series. This was so good. I have the first 5 of these. Which, is it the Bookish Box? Who did these editions? Fake Crate did this one. Yeah, love those. Okay, then there was Adrift by Swati MH. This was recommended by Rachel's Reading Frenzy, and I believe, if I remember correctly, that this one was I could be totally wrong, so I'm sorry. Again, I'm going fully off memory of these. I think this one was the one that the sister dies, and it's the sister-in-law and the brother. And, like, she becomes kind of the nanny for her nephew. I could be totally wrong on that. I don't know. I remember it was pretty angsty. There was, like, an age gap, and it was kind of forbidden because of that. Because he's a widower, maybe. I could be wrong. I gave it a 3.5. I know I tried another Swati MH after this one. Like, I tried an arc of hers as well after this one. And I didn't, like, love it, so I didn't keep trying her after this. But it was a pretty good, it was 3.5. Like, I didn't dislike it. It was pretty angsty, I remember. So, decent one. And I would be willing to read her still again, but not enough to, like, keep reading arcs, I think is how it was, Okay, then there was Bed Me Earl by Felicity Nevin. This was recommended by Lucia, and I gave this one 5 stars. Yes, I remember liking this one a lot. I think this is the one that she was very tall and awkward. I ended up reading 2 in a row from this one, so I maybe have them, like, there's Bed Me Earl and Bed Me Duke, and I am getting them confused, but I liked both of them. So that one was 5 stars. Great recommendation. Then there was 1% of You, and this is a special edition that I got sent from one of my friends after. Oh, that's the tattoo that he gives her. Anyway, this one was put in here because I was asking for ones that were not his baby. And this is a single mom. She is, like, pregnant with a baby and has a little girl, and is, like, getting separated from her partner. And he is her neighbor and is, like, a grumpy jerk in the beginning. And I really, really liked this one. So they sent me this special edition of this one. But I loved this one after reading P.S. You're Intolerable. this one. Really liked this. So this was a 5-star read, and they didn't put their name in who recommended it, but I gave that 5 stars as well. Then there was A Substitute Bride for the Prize Fighter. This was recommended by Megs. Loved this one. I also have read this whole trilogy now, and the first book in the series is not the best, I will admit. It is written very differently than the next 2 in the series, but this one, Lizzie ends up kind of like joining a traveling fair with her husband Benedict, and I love this one. So this was a 5-star read as well. There was Brutal Obsession by S. Massery. This was recommended anonymously. I've talked about this series quite a bit. I gave this 4 stars. This one isn't my favorite in the series, but this one is the ballerina one. This is the one where he gets in like a drunk driving accident and ruins her career, and then she ends up going to the same college as him, and then still like blames her for him being in trouble for being reckless. Like, it's a fucked up situation, but I just kind of loved the type of fucked up that it was at the same time, because I enjoy that craziness sometimes. So I gave this one 4 stars because it was wild and crazy, and it worked for me in a lot of ways. Okay, there was Wild for You by Kristen Proby. This was one that I was really tempted to try, and Raylyn recommended this one. And I hadn't read Kristen Proby in quite a while, and this is the one that got me back on it, okay? Because I just decided to give it a go. I got the audiobook for it, and this was what kicked off my relove of Kristen Proby. Because again, I'd read a few of hers. She had written tons of books up to this point, but she kicked off her like Cowboy Montana series, you know, with these, The Wilds of Montana. And I just clicked with this book. And so now, like, I've been on her ARC team. Well, not like her ARC team, but with Must Love Audio. And I just love her books now. I love the audiobooks. And I just adore these. So I've given this one 4.5 stars. And yeah, this one was a single dad, grumpy. I'm actually going to be rereading this one and annotating it for a patron this month. And I just enjoy the small town, the cowboyness, the grumpy. So really liked this one, gave it 4.5 stars. And then I know I read these really close together because I was in the cowboy mood. And what was also recommended by someone, this one was anonymous, but I dived right into it, was Alive and Wells by Bailey Hannah. I also talk about this one all the time. This one was a woman on the run from an abusive relationship, and she ends up at this small ranch looking for solace. And at first the owner and like ranch guy doesn't want her there, but then they fall in love. And, you know, these ones ended up getting traditionally published, which I love how many cowboy romances did, though. I still love the covers of these. I know these ones ended up getting cowboys on the cover of them, but I actually still love this cover of the book. Like, I love this one so much. And I gave this one 5 stars. Next, there was The Escort's Tale by M.J. Edwards. And yes, this one was actually recommended in my book rec form. And this is one I actually ended up reading for Patreon. And I have recommended this one multiple times, right? I talk about this one quite a bit because this was one that I actually ended up putting in the Patreon poll, which is kind of funny how that works out, right? Well, maybe SMT did, because SMT was on here as well. So I shouldn't speak that, maybe, I don't know. But the prompt for Patreon was a MMF romance, like it was a poly situation, or it was sex worker. It was one of the two. But this is the one where the sex worker gets called in to help out this young couple who the hero was, or the male in the relationship was in a skiing or snowboarding accident, and he's not able to perform. And the couple had a very sexual relationship, and he wants to give his wife pleasure still. And so he hires, like, they hire a sex worker. And our male sex worker who gets called in sees an opportunity to kind of like involve the husband in it and not just be a cuckold situation. And they end up all kind of falling in love instead. And I love this one. And so I bring this one up a lot when I talk about erotic romance, when I talk about how to write a romance where all three people fall in love at the same time. And it happens in a book that is basically a novella length, and it works. Like, I think it's really, really well done. So that one was 5 stars. Okay, then there was Heartbreak Warfare by Heather Oregon and Kate Stewart. This was recommended by Carol Ann. And I also read this one, though, for a patron, and I annotated it. And this one was very difficult for me. It involved a wartime, 2 soldiers, but it was a female soldier and a male soldier who are held captive together and tortured. And it involves PTSD and it involves infidelity, and it is extremely traumatizing, and it involves cheating, and it was just very difficult to read. I gave this one 3 stars. It was painful. It was a painful one for sure. Okay, there was Quiet Beautiful Things by Samantha Christie. This was my first ever Samantha Christie. I had thought and tried about reading her before, but this was the first one I ended up reading. It was her, at the time, like, current series that she was writing. And this one involves our hero discovering that he has a daughter who's deaf. So he's not only a surprise dad, but he's a surprise dad to a deaf little girl. And all of this is thrown at him at once. And our heroine, her name is Ellie, and she's actually deaf as well. And so she's assigned to be a mentor to the little girl. And she comes in basically like accusing our hero of being a neglectful dad, when really, like, this has all just happened to him too. He hasn't even had a chance to get a grip on anything, and this woman is judging him of being the one who's, like, left his daughter in this situation when he's only just found out. So it's a very, like, overwhelming thing for everybody, but I really love how they end up coming together and working together for the good of this little girl. And I love this one. It was 5 stars. This was recommended to me by Liz, and this is also one I recommend all the time. And I really enjoyed pretty much this whole series, although Samantha Christie will work her best to try to break you, so be prepared. Okay, then there was Tempted by His Kiss by Tracy Ann Warren, and this was recommended by Diane Letourneau. This is one, and you're about to see quite a few of these come, because we restarted now, when we got to this one, we restarted at this point in time my Rake Appreciation Society, and this is when I really started using my book rec form to pick historical romances, because I wanted to pick historical romances that I, hadn't read before. And I wanted to use some of these recommendations to pick those. And I picked Tempted by His Kiss by Tracy Ann Warren. I hadn't read a Tracy Ann Warren before. I couldn't find my copy on my bookshelves, but I absolutely have this one. And this one was all right. I wanted more from it. So it was a 3.5 star for me. I was hoping for more, but it also was pretty good. Like, for the time that it came out, it could have been worse, could have been better, it's one of those. Okay, then I read Trust Me by Tiffany Patterson. This was anonymously recommended, and I enjoyed this one a lot. This was a new to me author as well, and I ended up that I saw this one on the book rec form, and then at the same time, Must Love Audio was offering it as a ARC or an ALC option. So that's actually where I've read a lot of Tiffany Patterson now, is her books have been ALCs for me. So that is how I read that one. And I really enjoy her books. There's usually a lot of, like, interracial couples, billionaires. There's a little suspense sometimes, but very possessive heroes, very obsessive, just hot in a lot of ways too. Love it. Okay, then you'll recognize this one for sure. This was recommended by both Melissa Barr, love Melissa, and Raylan, both recommended Unsteady to me. Okay, and yeah, I read this one and absolutely fell in love with it. And I read it right before it got released as Trad Pub. So it was great. I actually read it like right before it got picked up, repicked up as Trad Pub, which was crazy. So yeah, y'all know how much I love Reese and Sadie. I'm obsessed with them. I can't wait to read oh shoot, what's the newest one coming? I don't know, but the next one is coming, and I have an arc of that one, and I can't wait to read it because I just love how she writes college romance. Honestly, I don't read many authors who write like new adult lately. That isn't like dark, okay? Like I will read like dark new adult, okay? Like Rena Kent writes it and some others, but the way that she's able to write young adults and it be so moving and like intentional and beautiful. This was a 6-star read. It's one of my favorites. I will recommend it forever. It was beautiful. 6 stars. So probably my favorite of all of these that we're talking about was Unsteady. All right. Then there was Untouched by Anna Campbell. Lover of Romance recommended this one. And I read that one during our, what's it called? During our readathon it was one of the readathons I was a part of. And this was one where the hero was considered crazy and he'd been locked away, and our heroine gets kidnapped to be used kind of as like leverage over him. It was very dark, but I rounded this one to 4 stars because I hadn't read anything quite like it. It was very dark and heavy. Another one we read for Rake Appreciation Society, actually I have a few of these in a row here. There was All Through the Night by Connie Brockman. This one had been on my TBR for a very long time, and I had initially rated this one higher on here. It's funny, I rated this one a 4.5. It's not a 4.5, it's a 3. I don't know why I initially put this as a 4.5, because after sitting with it even just a little bit, it really was a 3. I didn't care for how the hero treated the heroine, nor how the heroine was really written either. So yeah, that one's actually a 3 for me. Especially once we talked about it at book club, I was like, I actually don't really like this. So initial impressions, it's funny how those work sometimes. But I also read The Silent Duke by Jess Michaels. That was recommended by Isamar. Didn't really care for that one either. It felt kind of a lot like sexual blackmail was happening, and that the heroine was taking advantage of the hero's kind of like disability a little bit in there. Didn't really care for that. Gave that one a 3 as well. I read Crow by A. Zavarelli, recommended by Corinna. That I read for the Mafia readathon last year. That one had been on my TBR for a very long time, so that one was really good. Gave that one a 4. I read that one for Patreon as well. Did I read it? Either way, I read that one. I think I read that one for Patreon, but maybe it was also during the readathon. I can't remember. Now I don't know. I also will just mention this one as well. I also read Skeletons of Society by Marie Maravilla. That was recommended by Kim T. I gave that one 4 stars. I gave Crow 4 stars as well. I gave Skeletons of Society. That one's one where our hero is undercover in a biker gang, and the heroine is actually a part of the cartel. So I like that they were both kind of in like fish out of water in different ways. Then there was Leave Me Behind by K.M. Moranova. Didn't really care for this one like I wanted to. I just don't really like this type of hate to love. I don't believe that there was any love. I think it was hate to hate, and they both want to be hated, and they're just accepting hate from each other. So I ended up at a 3 from this one, but I kind of rounded up to it. And then finally, one that was like officially had been read on here was Fish Out of Water by Katie Ruggles. This was recommended by Megan Long, and I did actually annotate a copy of this for Megan for Patreon. She sent me it, and I rated that a 3.5 star. And that one was just a sweet contemporary of this woman. It had a little bit of suspense in it, kind of like this woman's trying to find her sister who went missing, and she enlists this like tour guide to help her find her sister. So, and that one was really cute, and I enjoyed it. So those are all ones that I had like read because of the recommendation list. So now, like I said, I have this list of books that were put into the recommendation list, and they're books I either have already read prior to them being put in there, or they're books I'm not going to read at all. So I'm just going to tell you that. Okay. So let's just go through this list kind of quickly. Okay. And we'll wrap this video up. So there's Stowaway Whirlwind by May Adler. So I won't be reading this. I read Runaway Whirlwind by May Adler for my Patreon, and I saved that review for my Patreon because they paid for that review. I did not have a good opinion of that book at all. And though I think May, the person, seems very sweet, she's a friend of my author, so I don't want to say disparaging things. I don't plan to read anything else written by her. After reading that book, I was very uncomfortable by it. And I don't like the kind of kink that she writes, or the situations, or the type of age gap she writes, so I won't be reading any from her. Villainous Kingpin by Eva Winters. I have already read and reviewed that. Alexi by Eva Winters. I have not read, but I don't plan to read because after reading, I've actually read 4 books by Eva Winters. I don't like the kind of mafia she writes. So Villainous Kingpin, I reviewed it, and I've reviewed 3 other ones. I don't plan to read more by her. Playing with Monsters by Amelia Hutchins. I've actually have read that one and reviewed it. No Tomorrow by Carrie Ann Cole. Actually, I don't plan to read any more Carrie Ann Cole. I don't really like the type of angst or stories that she writes anymore. I've read quite a few of hers through the years, and they just don't really work for me anymore these days. Bitter Secrets by Mia Knight. So this was a weird one because this is the second book in a trilogy, and I never read the first one. I do know the controversy behind this. It took many, 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 many years for this second book to ever be written, and it does look like she's finished this trilogy, but I'm just not interested in it. Not interested in this type of mind fuckery that's in that trilogy, so won't be reading it. Some cheeky little person recommended Complicated by Zanny Adams. I don't know. They didn't put their name, so maybe this was a joke or whatever, but Zanny Adams is Claire Kent, is Noelle Adams. And I've read Complicated, obviously. Also, Noelle Adams is Claire Kent, is the author that I work for. And I have read Complicated already. I've read most of her books already. So, also, there was a couple other books by Noelle Adams, like, put in here. And in general, like, I won't take recommendations for her books to read because if I do read them, I don't review them anyway because she's the author that I work for. So, in general, I don't think people want my, like, review of those anyway because I'm not an unbiased person at this point. I, in general, just give the overview of books of hers, and I mean, I try to, like, just say, like, which books of hers a book is like, so that you know, like, if you like this, try this, but I'm never going to be unbiased. Of course, I want you to buy her books because it pays me. So, yeah, but I thought it was cheeky. Someone had put Complicated in there, actually, like, 3 different times, so I didn't know if that was just a cheeky joke or whatever, but it's funny. Spark by Lauren Rowe. I have read and reviewed Spark. I liked it a lot. I listened to the audiobook, it has music in it, and it's really good. Love it. Once Bitten by Heather Guerrero. I have read all 3 of the books that are out so far in that like vampire werewolf series, I've read it already. I binged those. I am still waiting on the next one to come out. Whenever she puts it out, I will read it immediately. But yes, I've read the 3 that are out and reviewed those. Someone recommended The Iron Duke by Mel Jean Brooks. This is aka Milla Vane, who aka is the author of, I actually have it right here, the same author who wrote this book, which I love, and we won't talk about the fact that no more has come out in that series in a long time. I have read The Iron Duke, and it was all right. It wasn't good enough that I really care to continue the series. Ravager by Karina Halley. So A, this is not a romance. B, I have read it and I hated it. I gave it 1 star because I was not informed that it wasn't a romance before I read it. It's not a romance. It is a tragedy. It's historical fiction, horror almost. So yeah, I have read Ravager. It was called Ravage at one point. It's interesting, but just no, not romance. I have read it. I hated it. Mostly because I didn't know what I was getting into when I read it. I saw that she'd written something like inspired by Vikings back when I was binging a lot of Karina Halley. And I was burned. I was burned quite badly by it. I'll say that. Sweetest Sin by Nikki Ash. This was put in here like 2 or 3 times as well, which was funny because the time that it was put out, I was literally when I was reviewing Sweetest Sin. So I have read and reviewed Sweetest Sin. Really enjoyed it. Corrupt by Penelope Douglas. Now, this one was very sweetly put in. I should have written the name down. But this was put out by someone who also has a channel. I can't remember the name. But I have read this entire series by Penelope Douglas. I've read the Devil's Night series. I actually started the series probably, I think I did have a channel because I read Birthday Girl. Did I have a channel when I read Birthday Girl? I don't know if I did, but like I read Birthday Girl, Credence. I read the Devil's Night series. I've read, I read the one about the teacher and the student's parent. I've read a lot of Penelope Douglas. I don't read Penelope Douglas anymore because to me they haven't brought anything really new to the party lately. But I have read Corrupt and all of them. I read that whole series. They were kind of my intro to that type of story. So yes, I have read those. And then finally, someone recommended Filthy Christmas by Serena Akeroyd, and I won't be reading that. I'm not reading anymore. Never reading any more Serena Akeroyd because I have been reading her like spin-off books that are the cowboy ones that are under a new name. Like I have read those and like they're okay. Funny enough, they're under a new name, but she still includes the mafia in there sometimes, which is wild. But I don't plan to go back to the Filthy Feckers besides where like one of my patrons wants me to revisit Filthy Rich. So like I'll revisit those. But she burned the bridges for me with how far she went with that series. And I have no desire to go back and read even their Christmas story. I don't read Christmas stories for most books anyway, let alone go back to that series that I think she so fully beat the dead horse into the cold, iced over dead ground. I just won't be going back to it. So I don't care enough to do it. So that's the cold, hard truth, my loves. That's the cold, hard truth. So on that note to end it, I hope you enjoyed the update on some of those. Hope that answered some questions on some books that maybe you've put in the form. And yeah, please feel free to continue to use it. Like I said, I do check it. Every month when I make my TBR, I check it and see if there's any I need to add in or if there's any that I want to get to. And just because I don't, it doesn't mean I don't see them. It just really all depends. I have a very heavy schedule of things I have to get to. But sometimes something catches my eye and I'm like, immediately have to have it. But the sun's coming for me, so let me wrap this up. Thank you so much for watching. I appreciate you. It's something I have to remember to do. Please hype this video. If you think to do it, you can do that on your phone if you're watching. Just turn your phone to the side, go where the comments are and swipe over and hype this video. I believe that's something YouTube's wanting people to do. If your channel has less than, like, I think 50,000 subscribers, it can really help the videos. Like this video, share this with someone, and yeah, if you want to recommend a book or a video, you can do that down below. Thank you so much for watching, friends, and I'll see you next time. Bye.